Hello, my goddess, Yamio. I've missed you so much. You popped out with like three amazing videos in like the span of a few hours, and I literally want to make a response video to each of them because the topics are so good. So I hope you don't mind that I'm going to use you as a guinea pig for the next couple of videos. But this topic that you brought up, thank you so much for bringing it up. For those of you who are stumbling upon my video, go back to the video that this comment is attached to and watch the video, okay? So, yesterday, in my video about Espiritismo being open or closed, towards the end of the video, I started talking a little bit about purgatory spirits, right? Spirits that are kind of in this in-between stagnant state, in this state of confusion, in almost like in like a limbo or purgatory state, right? I'm bringing this up not to say that the ancestors that are not elevated, not to say that that's where they are, but I bring it up to say that the work that needs to be done with ancestors that still need the help and that are still not elevated yet, the work that goes into that is very similar to the type of work and training that you would need when working with purgatory spirits, spirits that are stuck in a state of confusion, etc., right? I say that because it is not so much that we discourage, at least in Espiritismo, I'm speaking from Espiritismo, I'm speaking from, a spiritist standpoint, a mystic standpoint, right? And I'm also speaking from a place of safety. So it's not that we discourage people from not working with, like from working with their ancestors that, weren't quite on the up and up. It's not so much that. It's more about safety. It's more about where the espiritista is in their development, okay? Because the truth of the matter is this, the crust of it is this. Ancestors, because they are your lineage, they have direct connection to you and have direct influence in your day-to-day life. And when there are new espiritistas, when there are people training in this to do like the bigger work, we start them with their elevated ancestors because that's the energies we want them to invite into their life at this time to assist with their personal elevation and development. We want them to get to an elevated state within themselves so that then they will be strong enough to then go back to the ancestors that are in much more need and may need to be handled with a little bit more care and delicacy, or not, right? But the second reason why we don't start them off in this way, it still has to do with the first reason, in that we don't want these energies invited into the space right off the bat like that. But the reason we don't want those energies in our space right off the bat, right, like that, with regards to answer number 2, is because the pieces of you that are what we would call kind of like dormant genes, right, could get activated when these energies are in your space. So for example, let's say you have a family history of alcoholism. It runs in your family. This idea of alcoholism, addiction runs in your family. You noticed it across the board, whether it's alcohol, pills, sex, this, that, whatever. You've seen it going all the way back, right? In an instant like that, you already know, you're already privy to the fact that this is in your genes. It's a predisposition. It is a possibility that that gene can turn on, or that behavior or that habit can show up, right? When we are developing espiritistas, when we are developing mediums, we do not want those energies in that individual space at this time, because we first have to get them elevated out of the need for addiction or the need for alcoholism or whatever the genetic predisposition is, we need them to spiritually elevate out of that, so that when it's time to then work with that ancestor who has an addiction problem, it won't affect us. And if we invite that ancestor into our space prematurely, we now may have accidentally started something we cannot get ourselves out of. And this is how so many spiritualists from religions around the world, this is where a lot of them trip up and a lot of them end up failing. You know, ancestor work, ancestor veneration, ancestor elevation, this process of healing is a triggering process all the way around. All the way around. You could be triggering them, they could be triggering you. And it's happening in a spiritual sense, but it's also happening in an emotional sense, in a mental sense, right? These things really are deeply embedded in our character and in our behavior. And so, you know, it's not so much that we want to ignore them. It is not so much that we don't want to venerate them. It is that we need to first address ourselves so that we have the strength to do that. Then there's the third and final piece. The third and final piece is that these ancestors that need the elevation, the ones that are in need of it, not all of them are meant for you specifically to elevate. Okay? Because when you think about it, when we go all the way back, like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of ancestors. Like we have a huge amount of ancestors. And so when we get our investigations done, when we go to figure out who walks with us, we will also be told the causas or the spirits that are attached to us, because that's also part of who walks with us. And these spirits who are attached to us, many of them will be ancestors who are attached to you in this lifetime, because through your elevation, they elevate. Because there is a link there. There is something there, a genetic marker there that links you and that great, 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 great grandmother. Maybe, and we can use an example of, let's say you have this overwhelming fear of getting pregnant. Completely just like out of the blue. There's no rationale to it. You've never been traumatized around pregnancy. It's just never a thought. But when it comes up, when the conversation comes up, there's this visceral rejection and response to that, right? You then go to an investigation, you're figuring out who walks with you, and you figure out that there is an ancestor fucking 6 generations back who died during childbirth. Whether or not you're a reincarnation of them is not the point. The point is that there is a link between you and that ancestor. And so therefore, that ancestor will manifest and be attached to you at this time, because you need to get over your fear in order for them to be released from their trauma. You see what I'm getting? It gets complicated. It gets really, really complicated. And that is why we don't start people with the ancestors that are not elevated yet. Because that part of the work is the work. And you need to be trained in that, and you need to be ready for that. All right, so hopefully I answered that question, because that was such a good topic. Oh my God. Anyway, thank you so much, Mama, for posting these videos. The next couple of videos I know are really emotional for you, and I'm going to try my best as a neurospicy person to keep that in mind so that I don't say anything offensive or callous, okay? But thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk on this. I love you, and I hope to talk to you guys soon. I'm Leilani. This is The Magical Solution, and this is how we grow.